Welcome to Smart Architectural Programming. Today, we're diving into an exciting topic, Python literals.
And for this first video for chapter 3, we'll be focusing on Python literals. So first of all, we need to understand what Python literals are. In Python, literals are constant values that are assigned to variables. Basically, what we mean by that is any value that you store in a variable is referred to as a literal. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why do we need to know about literals or, about this specific definition? So what we need to remember is that whenever we want to become a professional in a field, understanding the terminology that goes around that specific profession is necessary. And literals is the correct terminology for assigned values to variables, the constant values that are assigned to variables rather. Now, there are two types of literals that we'll be going over. They're numeric and string literals. So we'll dive into each of these string literals and using coded examples so we can understand what these are better. So the first examples are numeric literals that we'll be going over. And there can be three types of numeric literals: integer literals, floating point literals, and complex literals. So now, if you look at our screen, we have our first example, integer literals. So here, by integer, we mean any value that's an integer. Integer is a mathematical term. If you're not familiar with that, I would recommend you to look that up. So basically, any integer a value assigned to a variable which is constant is a integer literal. Then we have decimal literals, which is 42. In integer literals, we also have binary literals, which is using binary binary values to add a constant value in literals. And we have octal literals, and then we have hexadecimal literals. Hexadecimal is relatively advanced for now, but it is something that you might want to look up on the side. Then we can, obviously these are print statements where we print all of these literals on our console, but we're not going to do that because this video is more so to show you exactly how these different concepts look in the encoded coded on an ID. Next, we have floating point literals. Now, floating point literals are basically correspond to what floating point values are in Python. So floating point values in any programming language are values which have decimal, have decimal values in them. So 3.14 is a float literal, which is a simple floating point literal, basically, as you can see here on line 14. And on line 15, you'll see an exponential literal, which has an exponential notation, which is 1.2 E3. Again, like these are some aspect of mathematical aspects to these. And as this is not a course on mathematics necessary for computer science, we'll not go too deep into that. You can look it up on the side, but generally knowing knowing a little bit about this is more than enough. So in floating point literals, we have simple floating point literals, which is simple decimal values, and in exponential literals, we have exponential notation based literals. Literals. Again, if I want to remind you that literals are constant values assigned to a variable. So this is a variable, and this is a constant value, which means it doesn't change. So that's what a literal is. Again, just as a reminder. And the third type of literals that we need to deal with are complex literals. Now, complex literals, basically, if we talk about them, they're not used that much. But what we can see within that is that we're using complex values and saving them to a variable. So just looking at this example would give you a more than enough idea of what this is. With that, we'll move on to the second part of this video, which is talking about string literals. Now, when we talk about string literals, they're sequence of characters enclosed in quotes. They can be enclosed in single quotes, double quotes, triple double quotes, what have you, right? But like any other string. But you know, there's string sequence of characters or strings that are enclosed within variables and saved within variables. Now, in the examples that we can see here, this is just a further exponentiation of what I mentioned. Single string values, you know, values saved in a single string, saying saved in a double string on line 3, and you know, then we have triple quoted strings. So here, one benefit of triple quoted strings are that you can write them out in multiple lines, unlike other strings. So if you go back to line 3 and I press enter here, this is fun is no longer a string as it has gone to line 4. So with double strings and single strings, they need to remain on the same line to be considered strings. But if you want to do multi-line strings, string literals, that is through triple quotes. So as we can see here, the string value or the string literal is in 3 lines. Just a reminder, there's no difference between a numeric literal that we discussed before and a string literal. A string literal is just exactly this similar to a numeric literal. It's just that the type of value is different. It's a constant value or constant string value saved to a variable. That's it. That's what you need to understand. Moving further down, we have strings with escape sequences. Now, I'm not sure if you are familiar with escaped sequences. First line, this /n means a new line. So after, if we print the string, it would print first line, and then it would move to the next line and print second line. And now T refers to indentation of text. So it would /T would indent text that would be printed on the console. Again, it's a constant value stored in a variable. These are just different examples that you can absorb to see how we can save string literals in different ways. The basic concept of string literals is exactly the same. Constant value that is saved in a variable. Now, raw string literals are pretty much used to save file location directories directly. And for that, we use the R keyword before the quotation marks to save the raw string literals properly. And F strings are formatted string literals, pretty much where we can enter dynamic content into the constant value string literal. So if we print any string literal or numeric literal for that matter, as the definition says, they're constant values, they do not change. So we'll get the same value being printed over and over again. But if you look at F strings, these are formatted string literals. They're constant. Most of the words are fairly constant here. But for example, we have name Alex, Alice, and age. In a formatted string, hello, my name is, and I am, blank years old. Now we, within curly braces, we write the variables we want to, print in those specific positions within the formatted string. You can understand how valuable this would be if you are further down your learning in Python, because it would give us the ability to dynamically enter and change content within a value that is being printed on the console. So you can understand how valuable this is going to be further down the line. With that, basically, we understand what literals are, whether they're numeric literals or string literals. Whether in numerics, we discussed the 3 types of numeric literals, or we discussed the different aspects of string literals that we're seeing now. For string literals, let's do a quickly run this so we can, just to show you exactly how these different things come up on the terminal. So first is hello world and Python is fun. That's the simplest form of saving a string literal. Single or double quoted string. One line, both of them are printed properly, right? In a single line. Next, we have multi-line string. When we print that, that is also print exactly how it is saved in multi-line. So it's printed in the same format, in the same multi-lines. But the only way you can write multi-line strings is through triple quotes. We move down next on line 18. Here we've added a new line, /n, and a /t for indented text. So if you look down here in the console, we have first line, second line, and indented text, basically. It didn't go to the new line, it indented the text away from the second line text. And the third, it printed the file directory properly. And the third formatted string, it printed Alice in the name of curly braces name and 30 in the place of age within curly brackets. With that, we can understand exactly what literals are. And I would like you to repeat this video a couple of different times to thoroughly understand what literals are. And once you're done with that, and once you're done with the examples in the book, move on to the next video. Thank you.
To watch the complete video series, click on the link in the description below. Thank you for watching.